The sun had only just begun to stretch its golden arms across the sleepy coastal town of Willow Bay. Waves rolled lazily toward the shore, leaving foamy kisses on the sand before retreating again with a sigh. Seagulls called out over the distant hum of fishing boats returning from their morning trips. The air smelled of salt and seaweed, fresh and ancient all at once. The kind of smell that reminded you that life was always moving, even when you weren't. An old man named Grandpa Ellis stood at the edge of the dunes. His hands tucked deep into the pockets of his faded corduroy jacket. His white hair was wild, dancing in the wind like sea foam, and his eyes, though tired, held a certain light, the kind that comes from years of seeing beauty in small things. He came to this beach every morning, not for fishing or walking, but simply to watch. The sunrise, the waves, the world waking up. It made him feel alive, even after all these years of being alone. That morning, however, something unusual caught his eye. Down by the water's edge, where the tide had just pulled back, hundreds of starfish lay scattered across the wet sand. Tiny, pinkish, and still glistening, a whole galaxy fallen from the sea. Ellis's brow furrowed. He'd seen this before. Sometimes after a storm, the tide would toss sea creatures onto the shore. Some would find their way back when the waves returned, but most would dry out under the sun. He sighed softly. "Poor little things," he murmured. "Just at the wrong place at the wrong time." He turned to leave. His knees ached too much to bend, and he told himself that nature would take care of itself. But then, something stopped him, a small voice. "Hey, don't worry, little fella, I'll get you home." Ellis turned his head and saw a boy, maybe 10 or 11, running barefoot across the beach. His clothes were too big for him, his hair messy and sun-bleached. He had a small bucket in one hand and was carefully picking up starfish with the other. The boy ran to the water, bent low, and placed one starfish back into the waves. Then he ran back, scooped up another, and did the same again. Ellis watched for a while, his curiosity piqued. Finally, he walked closer. "You'll wear yourself out before breakfast, son," he called out, chuckling softly. The boy turned around, startled but smiling. "Oh, hi, sir. I'm not tired yet. I have to help them." Ellis squinted at the long stretch of beach. There were hundreds, maybe thousands, of starfish. "You can't save them all," he said gently. "The tide's too strong. The sun's coming up fast. You'll never finish in time." The boy looked down at the starfish in his hands. For a moment he was quiet. Then slowly he smiled again. That small, stubborn kind of smile that only children seem to have. "Maybe not," he said. "But I can save this one." He bent down and placed it softly into the water. The tiny creature disappeared with the next wave. Ellis stared at him, at the way the boy's eyes shone with purpose, how he didn't hesitate even for a second before picking up another. There was something about that determination, raw and simple, that tugged at something deep inside the old man. He found himself bending down, ignoring the protest of his knees, and picking up a starfish. It was cool and slippery in his wrinkled hands. He carried it to the edge of the water and let it slip back home. The boy looked up, beaming. "You're helping too," Ellis chuckled. "Guess I am." And just like that, they worked side by side. As the morning sun climbed higher, painting the sea with streaks of gold, Ellis and the boy continued their quiet mission. They didn't talk much at first. The rhythm of their work said enough. Pick up, walk, release. Pick up, walk, release. After a while, Ellis asked, "What's your name, son?" "Leo," the boy said. "My mom says I talk too much, so I'm trying to be quiet." Ellis smiled. "You're doing a fine job, though I wouldn't mind some talking." Leo laughed, then frowned slightly. "Grandpa, do you think they feel scared?" The old man paused mid-step. "The starfish?" "Yeah. When they're stuck here on the sand." He thought for a moment. Maybe they just wait, hoping someone will come." Leo nodded, his little face full of thought. "Then we have to hurry." The old man felt a lump in his throat. There was something pure about this boy, the way he saw the world not as it was, but as it should be. They kept going. The sun grew hotter, and Ellis's back began to ache, but he didn't stop. Every time he thought of resting, He looked at Leo, still running, still smiling, and found new strength. Later that morning, as they worked near the rocks, a couple of fishermen passed by. One of them whistled and said, "You two trying to clean the whole ocean?" Leo looked up. "We're saving them!" The men laughed kindly but shook their heads. "There's no end to it, kid. The tide will bring more tomorrow." "Maybe," Leo said, not missing a beat. "But at least these ones will get to go home today." Ellis looked at the fishermen and smiled. "Smart kid, huh?" They nodded, a little embarrassed, and went on their way. As they worked, Ellis found himself thinking of his past, of another beach, long ago, when he was a father, not just an old man with time to spare. He remembered his daughter, bright and curious, much like Leo. She used to love collecting seashells. One day she'd found a stranded crab and begged him to help. He'd said, "Leave it be, sweetheart. Nature will handle it." She'd frowned at him and said, "But I'm part of nature too, Daddy." That memory hit him like a wave. His daughter had passed years ago, a sudden illness, gone too soon. He hadn't thought of her voice in a long time, but here he was, helping a boy who reminded him of her. Same heart, same kindness. He blinked away a tear and kept working. By the time the sun stood high overhead, they had cleared nearly a third of the beach. The tide was beginning to rise again, creeping closer, reclaiming what it had lost. Leo dropped to sit beside Ellis, panting. "We did a lot, huh?" Ellis smiled, handing the boy a water bottle from his bag. "We sure did. You've got more energy than the whole ocean." Leo grinned between sips. "Do you come here every day?" "Most days," Ellis said softly. "Keeps me from turning into a seashell myself. Then tomorrow we can save more," Leo said brightly. Ellis laughed. "You're not planning to make this your full-time job, are you?" "I don't know," Leo said thoughtfully. "But maybe one day I'll be a marine rescuer, or an ocean scientist, or just someone who helps." The old man nodded, touched by the sincerity in the boy's words. "That's a good plan, Leo. The world needs more someones who help." By evening, the waves had swallowed the last of the stranded starfish. The beach looked almost untouched again, peaceful and clean. Ellis and Leo stood side by side, watching the sun dip into the horizon. "Do you think we really made a difference?" Leo asked quietly. Ellis looked out at the endless water, at the gentle motion of the waves. "You know, Leo," he said, "sometimes the biggest difference doesn't happen out there." He pointed toward the sea. "But in here," he touched his chest. Leo smiled, understanding more than words could say. They walked back up the beach together, an old man and a young boy, their footprints side by side, fading slowly in the sand. Later that night, back at his small seaside cottage, Ellis sat in his armchair, the sound of waves whispering through the open window. On the table beside him lay a single seashell, pink, small, and perfect. He thought about the day, about the laughter, the work, the feeling of being needed again. For the first time in years, he didn't feel quite so alone. He smiled to himself and whispered, "Thank you, kid." Across town, Leo was doing the same, writing in his little notebook, his handwriting messy but full of pride. "Today I saved starfish with a grandpa I met at the beach. He said we can't save them all, but I think we can save some, and maybe one day they'll save us back." Time, as it does, drifted on like the tide. Leo grew up. The boy who once ran barefoot on the sand became Dr. Leo Bennett, a marine biologist, known for his coastal rescue programs. Every summer, he returned to Willow Bay to teach local kids about ocean life, kindness, and small acts that matter. Behind his lab desk sat an old photo, a grainy picture of a boy and an old man standing on the beach, both smiling at the sea. Whenever someone asked about it, Leo would smile and say, "That's the man who taught me the most important lesson of all." And on the plaque beneath the photo were the words Grandpa Ellis had once said, words that became Leo's lifelong motto. "You can't save them all, but you can save this one." One golden morning, decades later, a little girl ran along that same beach, Leo's granddaughter. She spotted a stranded starfish and called out, "Grandpa, look!" Leo, now older and gray, walked over slowly. His eyes softened as he saw her cupping the starfish gently in her hands. "What should we do with it?" she asked. He smiled, just as Ellis once had. "Let's take it home," the girl laughed. "Back to the sea?" He nodded. "Back to where it belongs." They walked hand in hand to the water's edge, and as the starfish slipped beneath the waves, the morning sun shimmered over the sea, as if smiling, too. Somewhere in that endless horizon, kindness rippled on, carried by the tide, from one heart to another, forever. Morale. A small act of kindness may not change the whole world, but it can change one world completely.